Already.
Hi, book babes. Welcome
Hello.
back. We are so excited that you are here with us. We are still tackling Think Like a Monk, and we are on chapter 4, which is intention. So go ahead and grab your book. You can follow along with us. Maybe you just want to sit back and listen to what we have to say or have to share. But no matter what, I hope you can really take some takeaways from our random thoughts. Let's dive in. So, under intention, it says blinded by the gold. And I don't know if that's a tail sign or not. And the quote is, when there is harmony between the mind, heart, and resolution, then nothing is impossible. I really liked this chapter because he really kind of focuses on the want and need for success, the want and need for, what we're working for every single day. What are the intentions behind just our daily actions and the life that we're living? Why is the big question that he really asks you as you go through it. One of the first things I highlighted was certain goals captivate us and we design our lives around achieving them. And when I read that, it really made me kind of stop and think back, like, okay, what is something really big that I set my eyes on? Like that was a big goal for me. And what was the action that I had to take? And how did I have to redesign my life in order to get there? So when I wanted to lose 20 pounds, I redesigned my entire life to get up early, to eat different foods, to move my body, to drink water, to eat more food. And it was just like the stepping stone of getting there. And as I read that, I'm like, okay, yes, you do. Like when you set a goal and you have something on your heart, you think of ways that you have to change everything so that you can get there. So at the end of the day, it kind of made me like, okay, is the goal that I'm working towards, is it worthy of the sacrifices in the redesign that I'm creating to get there? And I think that as we go into the book in this chapter, we really kind of uncover that truth. One little story that he shared
Absolutely.
here.
And I love,
Go ahead, Hannah.
oh, I was going to say, if you're going to say the story, you should definitely tell it because that's what I was going to say. I was like, we have to tell the story.
Yeah, so the story here was one of his goals was to recite the scripture. He saw another monk who was just sitting there reciting every verse from the scripture. And he was like, "Oh, that'd be cool. Like I want to do that." And his I don't know what he was called. Someone had asked him, like, why do you want to learn the scripture? Why is it important? Think about your motivations. Do you want to memorize all of the scripture because it's an impressive achievement, or do you want the experience of having studied it? In the first, all you want is the outcome. So if the goal is to memorize the scripture for achievement, it's just the outcome. In the second, you're curious about what you might learn from the process. And it's that gut check of like, okay, are we doing it just to reach that goal? Or is there something we want to uncover and learn along the way? What is going to get us there? It kind of brings me back to fall in love with the process. Fall in love with the process of whatever it is you're doing in life, because that's what's going to make not only the goal when you get there better, but the road as you work there feel so good.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you wanted to tell the story too, because I love that. Because I think so many times that like we see these things and we're like, oh, I want to do that. And it's like, well, why? Like, do you just want to like have that ability, or do you actually want to enjoy the process, learn how to do it? And there is something to be said of, if you were just given the ability, if you were just given the thing that you want right now, would you actually be in the mindset, the ability to handle what you're asking for? And so I love the idea of when he's like breaking it down of like going through the process and asking the why. And in the next spot, he goes through and he brings it down to 4 motivations for the things that you want to do. And he talks about how like no matter who you are, no matter like where you are in your life, everyone has a plan. And the things that motivate these plans are the 4: there's fear, desire, duty, and love. And to have it broke down so simply, I think was so true, because anything that you want, no matter like what goal or what ambition you might have, it is probably, when you really look at the why and the reason behind it, it is going to more often than not be because of one of these things. And right away he jumps into fear, and how that while fear can be a motivator and it can get you up and it can get you to do X, Y, and Z, on the long term, it's just not sustainable, because you don't want to keep yourself in that state of worry and anxiety. And at some point, your body is not going to be able to do what you're asking it, because it is at such a state of worry and anxiety and stress at such a long period of time. And he says, when we operate in fear for a long time, we can't work to the best of our abilities. We are too worried about getting the wrong result. We become frantic or paralyzed, and we are unable to evaluate our situation objectively or take risks. And right there, I was like, yes, because I just feel like that paralyzed feeling when you're just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, I definitely know like what that feels like. And while like he says, it is a way that you can work and you can realize like, oh, I need to do this and I want to do this, it's just not sustainable long term.
I love that. And like it kind of is the reality of like, oh my gosh, like when we let fear guide us or stop us, like it's kind of deciding our life for us. And that's kind of eye-opening. The next one he dove into, the second motivation, is desire. And the thing that really spoke to me here, I loved this quote that he shared by Jim Carrey. It says, Jim Carrey once said, I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of, so they can see that it's not the answer. Your desires, what you want to have, is not the thing that's going to make your life magically amazing. And then he goes on a little bit. It says, material gratification is external, but happiness is internal. And then he says, in the same way we search for happiness, finding it elusive when it can be found within us. And it's kind of like that gut check again that we really discovered in the happiness project. And it's also coming in here. Happiness does start within. No matter what our circumstances are, the happiness is inside us. Nothing we get or nothing we give is really going to make that difference. It's all about what's going on in our brain and in our hearts. And I think like that's huge. And everybody wants success, right? Everybody wants to be successful. And what is success to you? What does that look like? Is it having like a nice vehicle and in this huge crazy house and money in your bank account? Is that what success is? Because if you're chasing that, you're always going to kind of end up unfulfilled. You're still going to be like, oh, but I could do this. Oh, but I could get this. Oh, but and just keep trying to one up yourself without really falling in love with the process or being grateful for what you have. And here he says, success is earning money, being respected in your work, executing projects smoothly, receiving accolades. Happiness is feeling good about yourself, having close relationships, making the world a better place. And I've been in that situation where, one, I am a Ruby personality. I love being recognized. I love being celebrated. Like, I love working hard and being proud of myself. So I can definitely look at these like success. There was one point in my life when I just wanted to be successful because I thought that was it. And then there's this other point in my life where I'm learning, one, I had to learn my own happiness, but also as I'm going through this book, happiness determined by me, not determined by anyone else. And I think that is very eye-opening for me personally.
Absolutely. And I love that he put success doesn't guarantee happiness and happiness doesn't require success. Cool. And I think that a lot of the times we think, oh, if I just had more money, if I had this material thing, then all of our problems would be solved. And there's the famous rap lyric, the more money, more problems. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason that you hear that. And I believe that it's true, just because like you have these financial things, you have this huge success. It's not going to guarantee, because you hear that sometimes millionaires are your most lonely people in the entire world. And I think that it's just important to kind of remember and check yourself, like why does that necessarily motivate you? And just keeping your gut check of, just because you achieve this rank, just because you achieve this salary, those things come with a level up of issues and problems, and it's not going to just go away when you achieve that. And then the next one going into is duty and love. And obviously he goes and says, we all have different goals, but we all want the same thing, a life full of joy and meaning. And I mean, how true is that? At the end of the day, regardless of like what your goals are, I bet if you really just simplified anyone's goal that you talk to, your friend, your spouse, at the end of the day, you just want to feel fulfilled. You want to feel like you're having meaning in life, and that when you go and it's your time to go, that you leave nothing unfulfilled. And I think he just goes and talks about how money and mansions are not the only wealth. Hoard the wealth of spirit. Character is wealth. Good conduct is wealth. And spiritual wisdom is wealth. And I just love that, because I think so often you think of wealth as just being like the monetary money, and being rich, when you think there is so many more things that you could be rich in besides money, things that would be more fulfilling, like having really, really in-depth relationships and having people around you and stuff like that. There's just more to life than that monetary.
Absolutely. I totally love that. And I love right here where he says, what we do matters, so we matter. And it really kind of, it brings you back to the idea, like your actions, your daily actions have purpose. And if you're not using them purposefully with good intentions, then, you know, it's not going to get you that feeling that you want. And I love that he went into the end of this little section. It says, we can better handle discomfort when we associate it with a goal, purpose, or person we care about. And it's really kind of taking that fear and like taking the action that we need to take and really putting some sort of motivation behind it. I thought that was super powerful for me, because I'm that person driven by discomfort, which may or may not be healthy. I don't really know. But when I can like figure out why and really get kind of disturbed about it, like put a fire under my ass, so that, like, for example, like I wanted to get healthy to save my family's life. Like literally, I had the life that the person that I wasn't a good wife or a good mom. And so really associating my goal with being healthier, my purpose was actually to be a better mom and a better wife. And it made me show up more. And so I just thought that, you know, the whole journey was hard. Showing up for myself is hard. Doing the workouts is hard. Saying no to my favorite foods is hard, but it wasn't nearly as hard as the life that I was living. And it's because I wasn't living in that fear and I chose to work towards that regardless, it gave me purpose behind my goal. And I don't know, that just really was so powerful to me. And he goes into the next page, 72, where he talks about digging deep into your why behind what you want. And he has this picture of a why ladder. And I think it's crazy powerful, because you'll ask yourself, you know, like, what do you want? And so you have this want here, but then you ask yourself, well, why do you want it? And then you're going to give yourself kind of like this one over generic answer. But then if you keep digging, why? You're going to have to keep digging for an answer. Why? And then you're going to get to that root of the issue, the thing that really, really matters to you. And he says in here, if I'm motivated by love, my intention might be to serve where I am most needed. And then another little section that I had highlighted, you can want to get rich in order to serve. So maybe your goal is more wealth, and your goal isn't actually for the money, right? It's so that you can give the money, so you can help others, because that's definitely me. I find myself stuck in this place of like, I've gotten myself out of debt. I saved my family financially. And now my husband's like, well, what are we going to do with this money? And I'm like, let's give it away. And he thinks I'm totally crazy. But at the end of the day, it's really like, if I could just help one person eat a warm dinner tonight, or not go out in the cold without a jacket, like it really comes back to that. So you have to ask yourself why. Like, why do I want to make $10,000 a month, right? Like, what is that? So that I can contribute to those around me in need. And that's just kind of my own truth. I just love the why ladder.
Definitely. And I think it's really important just to kind of, because I think sometimes we stay on a very superficial level of what we want. And there's a bigger root to it. So you can say like, oh, I want money. Well, why? And I think that that was such a good little break, because he says, you know, material comforts are undeniably part of what we want from life. So when wealth is your desired outcome, why? And he has the examples of, I don't ever want to have to worry about money again. Well, why don't you worry about money? Because I can't afford to take the vacations that I dreamed about. Well, why do you want to take those vacations? I see everyone else on trips on social media, and why should they get to do that and I can't? I said, well, why do you want to do that? He says, they're having more fun than I am on the weekends. Well, that's it. So the root of the problem is your weekends are what's unfulfilled, and you want your life to be more exciting, more adventurous. And so then the intention changes. Your intention suddenly isn't, oh, well, I want money. Your intention shifts to making your life more exciting, which is what kind of we've always talked about, is if you're setting this goal and you're not enjoying the process, you're not being intentional with it, you're not going through the motions of it, then you might turn around, and when you get to that goal, you're going to turn around and be like, that wasn't even what I wanted. And the reason is because you were so focused on this superficial thing that you thought you wanted, but you didn't dig deeper. You didn't ask these hard questions. You didn't keep diving in. Well, why do I want this? And I love that when he gets it broke down, it's more than just, oh, I want money. It's more than, oh, I want to take vacations. It's, you know, you're actually looking at your life. And when you find that root, that is what you actually get to work with then. Once you have the root, then you get to make those plans and motions to actually solve that problem. And then you find that fulfillment, because not only did you dig deep enough to find that why, but now you're making motions and goals and ambitions that are dedicated to, you know, going with that why, to fixing that why, to getting you to that end goal that actually is going to leave you fulfilled. And I thought that, especially breaking down the wealth one, because I think that's such a common one. People want money. People want money because they grew up without it. People want money because they want nice things. People want money because, even like you said, like, because you want to be able to give it away. And I think that that is such a motivating factor. And having it broke down of like the intention behind it was super moving. And then in the next little spot, he goes into seeds and weeds. And I think that this is absolute gold. So he says, as monks, we learn to clarify our intentions through the analogy of seeds and weeds. When you plant a seed, it can grow into an expansive tree that provides fruit and shelter for everyone. Then he goes into saying that, where was it? Oh, the purity of your intention has nothing to do with the career that you chose. So just going into, you know, you get what you grow. And then I lost my spot. Wanted to see where he explained what a better example of the weeds.
Here on 76 is a little bit. It says, but if our intentions are vengeful or self-motivated, we grow weeds. Weeds usually grow from ego, greed, envy, anger, pride, competition, or stress. These might look like normal plants to begin with, but they will never grow into something wonderful. I love this section because I think it's, yeah, was that right?
Yep.
I just love it because he really kind of uncovers those truths that are in so many of our lives that we won't acknowledge in ourselves, right? We're not going to be like, oh yeah, me doing this is very ego driven, or me doing this is super greedy, or, you know, I'm so envious of what they want. And I think like that's just it. We let the weeds live in our garden as if they're regular plants. And it's like, no, that doesn't belong there. And I thought that was super powerful.
Exactly. And I love that his last example of the weed, which is the spot that I had highlighted, is because it says, say my intention is to build confidence, and I decide that getting the promotion is the best way to do it. I work hard, impress my boss, I move up a level, but then when I get there, I realize there's another level and I still feel insecure. External goals cannot fill internal voids.
Boom.
And it's like circling back to what I was saying earlier, like if you are pulling this goal because you think that this is going to fulfill you, but you didn't take the time to really invest and see where this goal is going to take you and say, when I get there, what is that going to look like? And then all of a sudden, like this example, when you get there, all of a sudden you're like, oh, this comes with another level of responsibilities. This comes with another level of pressure. And you think that when you get there, it's suddenly going to be easy street, and you find out that it's not. And I think that so often that happens to us. And that's why all of a sudden, then all of a sudden you think, oh, well, it's because I need another promotion, or it's because I need another raise. And you kind of wind on this hamster wheel of what you think is going to wind up being the answer. And then it's not.
Oh, I love that. Love that. So the next little section is about the Good Samaritan. And I really love, I love this whole book. Let's be for real. But in the opening of it, it says, monks know that one can't plant a garden of beautiful flowers and leave it to thrive on its own. We have to be the gardeners of our own lives, planting only the seeds of good intentions, watching to see what they become, and removing the weeds that spring up and get in the way. And I think that's it's a powerful visual for me, because so many times we look at our life and we are so quick to criticize and tear down. But if we can be kind of non-judgmental and just kind of look at it like, okay, what's happening, what's not happening, what do I need to get rid of, what do I need to plant more of, and just look at it from that view of like, okay, I can grow or remove anything at any time, and really look at your life as your garden. How much different is it going to feel, right? You're not going to be stuck in that shame cycle where you're totally tearing yourself down. And then at the end of this little section, he says, everything you do in your spiritual life, everything you do in the day, from washing to eating breakfast, having meetings, driving to work, watching television, or deciding to read, everything you do is your spiritual life. It is only a matter of how consciously you do these ordinary things. The ordinary things are so ordinary, but you are putting intention behind those actions. Whew. You're responsible for your own damn life, yo.
Exactly. And then I love that that goes right into just living your intentions after you've kind of really dove into that why, because having the intention isn't enough. It's living the intention. And he goes into how many times like you hear like, I wish, I wish, I wish. And it says, I wish is code for I don't want to do anything differently. And chills, because how guilty is every one of us? Like, I'm guilty. I'm sure listeners can think of a time that you just were like, oh, I wish that this could be easier, or I wish I had that, or I wish, anything. Think of how many times like you watch Aladdin and you think about how nice it would be to find the magic lamp and get your 3 wishes from the genie. And that's just it. You don't want to do the work. And there's a big difference in life of saying, oh, I want to do this. But do you actually want to take the steps? Do you actually want to make the changes? Because if anything is learned in life, the things that you want don't usually come easily. The things that are like the blessings, the fruits, they're usually at the other side. The rainbows are after the storms. And I think so many times that once we put it out in the universe, like, oh, I want to have this goal, I want to have this lifestyle. And then you start seeing all the changes and the hard work. And it might be easy day 1, day 2, but how many times have we said we were going to make this lifestyle change? And all of a sudden day 4 is here and we're like, I'm actually good. I don't think I want to do this anymore. And it really goes into living your intention means having to change your behavior. For instance, if your goal is to improve your relationships, you might have to plan dates, give your partner gifts, get a haircut to look better for them. And I thought that was a lesson, like just the idea that there is actual things. You can't just sit behind your goal or your wishes and not expect that it's just going to, at a flick of a wrist, just be that way. There is actual work and intentions that have to go behind that now.
Absolutely. I love that. And a little part that I have highlighted is when looking at goals, I needed to consider the investment, the life that it required before making it my goal. Because how many times do you look at someone and you're like, oh, I want what she has. Oh my gosh, yes, I want that. I want to be XYZ. And then we like start and we try and then we're like, and it's like, Well, you don't actually want what she has because you're not willing to take the action that she's taking. You can't wish and want what she has and then shame yourself or shame them because they have it, when it's just simply, it's, to me, it's miscommunication, right? It's miscommunication with yourself. It's miscommunication with the world. It's miscommunication with the other person. Because when you say, I want that, but you're not willing to take the action, you're that's not truthful. That's not a truthful statement. You don't actually want that. You want the success of that, because if you wanted that, then you would take the action, or you would want to take the action to get there. And I think that's super powerful when you can recognize that you are miscommunicating your goals in the life that you want with yourself. At least that's what I've learned for me. And when I can be more truthful with myself and be like, that looks good because, but I don't actually want that because, or that looks good and I do want that, and this is what I'm willing to do to get there. I think that was powerful. And then at the end of this, it says, if the changes you make are internal, you'll feel better about yourself and you'll be a better person. If your relationship doesn't improve, going off of what the little quote that you had, you will still be better for it. So no matter what, if you're going in with good intentions, no matter the outcome, your life's going to be changed for the better. So, I mean, what are you risking by taking the action?
Exactly. And then that goes into like kind of the next step that he breaks it down even farther, and it's doing the work. And that's kind of like what we've been saying is once you discover your why and you discover the want behind it, you have to consider the work. What's it going to take? And are you actually interested in doing that work? And then he goes, and I have a little quote at the end that says, if you're in love with the day-to-day process, then you do it with depth, authenticity, and desire to make an impact. You might be equally successful either way, but you're driven by intention, you will feel joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's overall a common theme when we read these mindset books is, at the end of the day, you need to be in love with the day-to-day process, or it's all for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been about the end goal. It's about the stepping stones that you take, the process that you go through, and then being able to grow within that process. Because that's the thing with instant success, is the process builds you up to be the person that you need to be at that spot. And if you skipped all that process, all that growing, then you are going to have a really hard time when you are sitting at that spot and you're not built up. You don't have the skills and the trials and errors that make you be successful at that level, because you skipped all that growing. You didn't take enjoyment in the process. And then you're going to sit up there at your end goal and turn and look back and go, this wasn't even I wanted. All the wasted time, all the wasted energy. And that's not what anyone wants.
I love that. Oh, I love that so much. Then the last final section here is role models. And it kind of goes back to looking up to someone else. When you're looking up to someone else who's farther along than you, it's important that you don't compare yourself to where they're at. You have to look back, focus especially on what they did at your stage in order to get to where they are now. So in life, if, for example, you want to grow the seeds on your side of the fence, what is it that you want that they have accomplished, and what does it going to take at your level of life? I think that's a really important question to ask yourself. What do I have to do now to get to where I want to be? And I love that he said here at the bottom that there can be multiple paths to achieve the same intention. And it's just the permission that, okay, maybe you look at someone and you're like, oh, I want what she has, but I can't do what she does, right? Remember that there's another way to get there. There's no one perfect way to get anywhere in life. And maybe you want to help people, right? Maybe that is your goal, and you see someone helping them this way and you're like, but I can't do that. Okay, well then find your own way to get there. Find your own path. Use your own strengths. I think so many times we talk ourselves down because we aren't good at whatever that other person does, when if we could just ask ourselves, what are we really good at? What can we focus on? Where can we put our intentions to grow in that area? Even if it doesn't look like the other version, we get to make our own. And I just thought that having that permission, if I could have had that permission way younger, gosh, how good is that going to feel, right? Knowing that I can do what I love and what brings me joy and things that I'm good at, play at my strengths, and I'll get to where I want even quicker, right? Because that's where I thrive. Like I'm vibing in my jam right there when I feel good. But when I show up trying to be someone else or trying to do it like someone else, and it feels inauthentic and messy, and it's really, really hard, and I doubt myself a lot. And so I just really want to point out that permission piece.
I love that. And then one of the last parts in the section, let it go to grow. He says, living intentionally means stepping back from external goals, letting go of outward definitions of success, and looking within. And just in that last little piece, I just thought that itself, because so often, like I said, you put external goals that you think that are going to make you happy. And then when it doesn't, you still feel like garbage. And it's because it's the work within that then radiates outwards. And it's really, I love the living intentionally, because I think so often we can just get swept up in the day to day and kind of lose focus. And you just kind of do like the daily activities. You know, you get up, you eat, you make sure your kids are taken care of, you go to work, you come home, you kind of do bedtime routine, bed, and then it gets mundane and you do it over and over again. And then you step back and you realize that you haven't maybe been the best mom, or you haven't been the best wife. And it's because you're just kind of getting by. And when you take the time to be intentional with your time, with your body, with your relationships, then at the end of the day, everything is fulfilling you more and being able to kind of give way to those bigger goals and that bigger feeling. And when you know better and you feel better, you do better. And then it kind of leads into that ripple effect that we've talked about, that once you are living intentionally, and then it goes into your husband and he feels that, you know, that relationship, that love, and then he's able to go and maybe be better at work. And, you know, maybe he's able to help out someone at work, and because he's in a better spot. And I just love that overall theme that we keep always coming back to.
I absolutely love this. Obviously, intention is totally my jam. So this chapter really spoke to me. That's it for this chapter. And I'm so glad that you're here listening with us, diving in. I hope that Hannah and I were able to kind of open your eyes to different things that maybe you didn't see when you were reading. But we would love to hear what you thought of this chapter, really kind of what you took away. So be sure, tag us on social media, shout us out, and we can't wait to sit with you next time.